Your person betrayed you during a time when your heart was wide open, offering them unconditional love and spiritual protection. While you were holding space for them on a soul level, rooting for their growth, healing, and happiness, they were too lost in their own ego, fears, and confusion to see the depth and purity of your love. You stood by them, emotionally and spiritually invested, while they took your presence for granted. Now, they are enveloped in a deep sadness, consumed by the weight of their mistakes. It's an energy that reflects deep regret for not valuing the love you offered so freely. They are beginning to understand the rarity and power of what they had, and what they let slip away. Internally, your person has come to acknowledge a hard truth: they acted like a coward. Instead of showing up authentically, they hid behind masks. Their selfishness and inability to meet you halfway made the connection feel painfully one-sided. They weren't ready to face the intensity of what you two shared, nor were they ready to be seen so deeply. But everything changed when you finally decided to walk away. The moment you withdrew your energy and stopped pouring into the relationship, the gravity of what they had lost hit them. That was their wake-up call, a sobering realization of how foolish, immature, and emotionally unavailable they had been. Now, the emotional turmoil they once left you drowning in has become their own reality. They are going through the same heartache, confusion, and spiritual breakdown that you once endured. In many ways, they are living in your shoes, finally feeling the depth of pain they caused. It's a heavy, humbling experience, one that is forcing them to see the truth not just about your love, but about themselves. They are beginning to recognize that this was never just a casual relationship. This was a soul connection, one that transcended the physical, one that shook them at their core. And now that you're gone, the silence is louder than ever. It echoes with all the things left unsaid and the love they chose not to receive. You were too real for them, and that scared them more than they could admit. While you were living from a place of authenticity and heart, they were caught up in illusions, living a life built on appearances, superficiality, or even deception. They feared that if you saw their true self, the messy, unhealed parts, they'd lose you. What they didn't realize was that you already saw them. You saw their soul, their pain, and their potential. And still, you loved them. Not for who they pretended to be, not for their wealth, status, or image, but for who they truly were beneath all of that. You recognized the soul in them, even when they couldn't recognize it in themselves. You loved them in a way that was rare, selfless, and profoundly spiritual. But they couldn't receive it. They were too afraid, too insecure, and too lost in their own shadow to trust it. And in their fear, they pushed you away. They sabotaged the connection. They chose comfort over courage, ego over vulnerability. But love like yours doesn't just disappear. It leaves an imprint, a memory, a longing that doesn't fade with time. Now they're beginning to realize that the love they once rejected was perhaps the purest and most powerful force to ever enter their life. In hindsight, they're seeing just how arrogant and short-sighted they were. They mistook your loyalty for weakness, your patience for naivety, and your silence for indifference. But now, they see it all clearly. They understand that your love wasn't something to be earned, it was something to be honored. They're ashamed of how they treated you, ashamed of how blind they were to your worth, and ashamed of how they failed to protect what was sacred. Their guilt runs deep, and though they may not have found the courage to say it out loud, their soul knows, they lost someone irreplaceable. The emotional roles have reversed. While they once left you aching with unanswered questions and invisible wounds, they are now the ones pacing in silence, haunted by the realization of what they destroyed. And ironically, it is through this pain that they are finally beginning to understand the depth of the love you gave. This connection wasn't just a fleeting romance, it was a mirror, a lesson, a spiritual bond that challenged them to grow. And now, without you, they are left to sit with everything they tried so hard to avoid, their feelings, their fears, and their failures. The truth is, your love was a gift. It came with no conditions, only the hope that they would meet you there, soul to soul. And while they couldn't see it then, they see it now. Whether or not they ever come back, whether or not they ever get the chance to make it right, one thing is certain, they will never forget you. You were their turning point, their mirror, their missed chance at something real. And they'll carry that truth forever. You always had my back, through every high and low, every moment of confusion, and every hardship. You were the one constant in my life, my strongest support, my biggest cheerleader, and my peace. Knowing that we're now apart feels like a part of me is missing. Every day since our separation, I've been overwhelmed by emotions I never expected to face so deeply. Among them all, the strongest is guilt, guilt that maybe I failed to love you the way you truly deserved, that perhaps I didn't show up for you in the ways you needed me most. Time has a way of exposing truths we often ignore. And as time passes, I can't help but feel that I didn't rise to the occasion when it mattered most. I feel like I fell short of your expectations, short of your love, short of the patience, understanding, and care you poured so generously into me. Being away from you has given me space to reflect, and that reflection hasn't been easy. I've been forced to confront parts of myself I didn't want to see, to admit mistakes I once denied, and to understand the depth of the hurt I caused. What hurts the most is knowing how much I took for granted. I didn't realize in the moment how much you were sacrificing, how much you were giving, and how much you were hoping I would meet you halfway. You were giving your all while I was stuck juggling distractions, fears, and insecurities I never fully addressed. I thought I had time. I thought I could always fix things later. But now I understand how precious our connection was, and how wrong I was to delay giving it the attention it needed. I've wanted to talk to you so many times. There have been countless moments where I've picked up my phone, typed out a message, or stared at your name, wondering if I should call. But each time, I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to reach out, but because I felt unworthy. I've been afraid of your silence, afraid of your anger, afraid that you've already closed the door. After all the pain I caused, facing you feels terrifying, even though my heart longs to speak to you. Everything around me reminds me of you. The smallest things, your favorite song, a scent in the air, a phrase you used to say, bring you rushing back to my mind. And every reminder carries both warmth and sorrow. Warmth, because I remember how deeply I loved you, sorrow, because I let that love slip through my fingers. I feel like I'm living in a constant state of longing, replaying memories, and wondering how I could have done things differently. I know I can't undo the past. But I also know that love is not just about never making mistakes, it's about learning, growing, and choosing to come back stronger. That's what I want, to come back to you, not as the person I was, but as someone who has grown, who understands now what I didn't then, and who is ready to give you the love you always deserved. What I want most is to talk to you, not through texts or messages, but face to face. I want to look into your eyes and say everything I've held back for too long. I want to show you that I've changed, not just through words but through actions, through presence, through commitment. This physical distance between us is more than just miles, it's a barrier I feel in my chest every single day. It's unsettling, almost unbearable. I miss you, not just the version of you I remember, but the reality of being with you, hearing your voice, and feeling your presence. That's why I've made a decision. I'm going to travel to see you. I need to bridge this distance. I need to show you that I'm not running away anymore, that I'm not hiding behind fear or silence. I need to stand in front of you and be honest, with you and with myself. I don't want us to stay apart, because deep in my heart, I know we belong together. I've always known it, even when I didn't act like it. I'm not expecting things to be easy. I know that rebuilding trust takes time, and I know that wounds don't heal overnight. But I'm prepared now, truly prepared, to make a real, solid decision for both of us. This isn't about impulse or guilt. It's about love. It's about choosing you, choosing us, and committing to the work that love requires. I want this union as much as you ever did, maybe even more now that I understand what I nearly lost. I know I've been indecisive in the past. I know I've been all over the place, emotionally unavailable, and sometimes careless. But that part of me is done. I've spent enough time reflecting, regretting, and replaying everything in my mind. Now I'm ready to act. I'm ready to come back, not just to you, but to the version of myself who is capable of being the partner you need and deserve. Please believe me when I say that this is coming from the deepest, most honest part of my heart. I'm on my way back to you, not just in distance, but in love, in growth, and in intention. Before I met you, I was living my life much like everyone else, caught in a cycle that felt endless, predictable, and safe on the surface but hollow underneath. My days were structured, built on a routine that I followed religiously. I woke up, handled my responsibilities, did what needed to be done, and repeated it all over again the next day. I wasn't necessarily unhappy, but I wasn't truly alive either. I was simply existing. My life was a checklist of duties, fulfilling obligations, showing up when expected, doing what was asked of me. I didn't question it because that was what I believed life was supposed to be, stable, orderly, and full of sacrifice. Whenever someone gave me a task or expected something from me, I did it, without hesitation and without considering if it was something I truly wanted. I rarely paused to ask myself what I needed. Even when my heart resisted or my mind felt drained, I would push through, not out of passion or purpose, but out of obligation and fear of disappointing others. I was driven by this constant need to please the people around me, to meet their expectations, to gain their approval. I didn't want to let anyone down. I believed that if I just kept doing what others wanted, if I was dependable, agreeable, and always available, then I would be worthy of love and respect. At the core of it all was my need for validation. It haunted me. I craved reassurance, not from just one person but from everyone in my life. I wanted to be seen as reliable, strong, capable, and admirable. I convinced myself that if I could be perfect in the eyes of others, then maybe I would finally feel good enough within myself. But no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much effort I put into crafting this image of perfection, I often felt alone. There were moments, quiet, still, and often late at night, when I felt a deep sadness settle in my chest, a sense of emptiness I couldn't explain. I would ignore it, push it down, and get back to doing what was expected of me the next morning. It was easier that way. Or so I thought. Beneath all of that, I carried questions, so many questions. I wondered about the meaning of life, the purpose of all this busyness, and whether there was something more, something deeper waiting for me beyond the surface of my routine. But I never voiced these questions out loud. I felt like I was the only one who thought that way, the only one who doubted, who struggled, who longed for something real and raw. Everyone else around me seemed so composed, so certain, so in control. I feared that if I asked the questions burning inside me, I would be seen as weak or confused or broken. And above all, I was afraid that I wouldn't be seen as the strong, gentle man I had worked so hard to appear to be. So I kept quiet. I kept moving. I wore a smile when I had to, nodded when people talked, agreed when it was easier than explaining how I truly felt. I became a master at suppressing my emotions, pushing down anything that might shake the steady image I had created. I didn't realize then just how much I was holding inside me. Every unspoken thought, every buried fear, every hidden tear, they piled up like invisible weights on my chest. I became numb in some ways, functioning without truly feeling. But the thing about emotions is, they don't disappear. They wait. And over time, they began to surface in ways I couldn't ignore. Little triggers would bring an overwhelming wave of sadness or frustration. I started to feel this ache inside me, a hurt that I couldn't name but also couldn't escape. It was like all the years of holding it in had caught up with me, and now the pain demanded to be felt. Looking back now, I realized that I was never truly present in my own life. I was performing, trying to be everything for everyone else while slowly losing touch with who I really was. I wasn't living for myself, I was living for the image others had of me. And that image was so far from the truth. Deep down, I was someone full of questions, emotions, fears, and dreams, someone longing to be seen, not for what I could do, but for who I actually was. Then I met you. And slowly, things began to shift. But before that moment, I was just a man caught in the motion of life, carrying weight I never spoke of, yearning for connection I didn't know how to ask for, and hiding pain that still lingers. Meeting you didn't erase the past, but it opened a door to understanding it, and for that, I'm finally learning what it means to feel.